Requirement of centralized audit in multi-locational firms is there. The firms are having multi-locational presence, 20 states, 30 states they are presented. Now they have been subjected to 30 different audits at 30 different time frame by 30 different teams. So there is a need for having one centralized audit for all the 30 locations by one team at one time frame. So this is something which has been looked at, which is required. So what are the challenges which has been there as far as the GST? We have all looked at the good things. The challenge which has been there is the way the GST has been administered. Unfortunately, GST administration is more of a collection-driven approach. I think we are on the wrong screen, Radhika. Yeah, we are the collection of the approach towards the administration is more of the collection biased. There's a lot of targets which has been given to the officers right from the top. So people are going crazy behind the targets and pressurizing the businessman like anything. Earlier, the pressure was only on a liability which I was liable to be paid. Now the pressure is also on a point where we are not clear whether it is liable or not. It is a matter of interpretation, right? I can always call a off-filled glass of water as off-filled or off-empty. Both is possible, right? So now how is that I'm going to look at? It's a matter of interpretation. Courts have to decide and tell this is what it is there, but there is a huge revenue pressure which has been happening, which is actually making a businessman vexed. So there is an immediate correction which has been required, the way they are looking at. Otherwise, the way GST is going is very smooth, except for this harassment. Tons and tons of notices have been given. After the notices, there has been again subjected to audits. So many checks and so many things are been there, which is actually making a businessman restless. Second thing, the challenge is that huge powers have been given in the law. The powers like never before seen in any other tax laws has been given. Power of arrest has been given. Power to freeze your bank accounts has been given. Power to attach or make your registration defunctional has been given. So all these powers has been given. Courts have told time and again that these powers has to be exercised on an exceptional basis, not as a matter of routine. Use these only for those rogues who are creating a revenue dent for the country, not for a genuine businessman. Very well given powers, which is required. I appreciate this as a citizen of India, but these powers has been misused by the officers for collecting the revenue. Harassment for a genuine businessman is happening across the country, both by the state officers and central officers. So this requires an immediate correction. And a lot of places, there is a personal extraction of money is happening by the officers. Unfortunately, they are using this power. They are saying, see, I can arrest you. I will not arrest you. What is there for me in this? All right. So huge parallel economy has been there because of this high powers which has been given. So it has to be moderately been done. It cannot be done as an exercise. You can just do it without anything. There has to be some checks and balances. Another harassment which is happening is the e-way bill checking. I told the check post has gone, but e-way bill can be checked anywhere. Earlier they were checking only in one dedicated place. Now they can check it in anywhere during the journey. And the penalties have been levied. The goods have been retained even for a minor mistake on the e-way bill. Courts have consistently holding, if there was no intention to evade, don't bother them for minor errors. The person was traveling with a valid invoice. His e-way bill had a discrepancy. If he had an intention to evade, valid invoice wouldn't have been there. Catch those people who doesn't have an invoice. Catch those people who are transporting more quantity than what was mentioned in the invoice. No problem. But a genuine businessman for minor errors have been arrested. The other challenge which you are also looking at it, the department people are untrained. because this was a combination of the concepts of VAT, combination of concepts of central excise, concepts of service tax, all put together. A framework has been done. Central excise people don't understand the concept of VAT. VAT people don't understand the concept of service tax. So there is a lack of training which has been required across department and also the accountants who are working for us. So this is also creating some errors leading to penalties and things like that. There is also an high rate for few sectors which is killing the industry. Next. I'll take another 5 minutes and I'll wrap it up. This is again another approach which we have seen various amendments. Heads I win, tails you lose. Both the ways I should be the winner. If you are paying the tax late, I will collect 18% interest. If I am giving my refund late, I'll give you only 6% interest. That too after the expiry of 90 days from your application. First 90 days I'll not give you interest. For you to take any benefit which you have missed, you have not taken input tax credit by mistake, oversight you have done, you have to take by November of next year. But if you have short paid the tax, I can collect for up to 5 years. Right? Yeah, I've paid an amount. I have already paid the amount, but I did not file the returns. Money is there with you in the government account, but still I have to pay interest. Why is interest has to be paid? Because there is a loss to the government because of me paying late. The loss has to be fulfilled by paying the interest. When money was there with you, should I pay interest? Provision says, yes, you have to pay interest. Courts are holding that you have to pay the interest because that is how the law has been framed. My vendor, I have paid the tax to my vendor. My vendor has not remitted to the government. You give him a registration without proper verification of his credential. He has absconded. He has taken the money, your revenue, he has taken and running away. You come and ask me to pay the tax. That means government is totally secured and insured. Either they'll collect it with my vendor. If he is absconding, he'll collect it with me. If I am absconding, he'll collect it with my customer. Government revenue is safeguarded. That is how the law has been done here. It has been done. It is totally appreciated that if it is a fraud, me and my vendor has colluded, he has absconded, I made him abscond, or I made a dummy vendor, come and ask me, fair enough. But not in a genuine business transaction. It has been asked across India for genuine business transaction. A very recent amendment is actually bothering the way the law is getting developed. 1st of October onwards, there is a change for this online gaming company. Earlier, the GST was supposed to have been paid by all those Dream 11s and all those things. You're looking at newspaper that discontinuing operation, cross together notices, right? So what they did is that they had a platform fees. 4 players are there. Each of them bet 400 rupees each. 400 is the pot. They get 40 rupees as doing this coordination. Tax earlier was levied at 40 rupees. Now the tax has to be paid on 400 rupees. So this is something which is big. Now the second thing which is coming is that when the tax has to be paid, the tax has to be paid when the player recharges his wallet 100 rupees. The moment it does 100 rupees, 28 rupees has to be paid to the government, even without he playing. Now he changes his mind. One of his friends says, why are you wasting money here? Don't do gambling, withdraw money. If he withdraws, he will not get 28%. Gone. So this is the law which is introduced from 1st of October. That means a total one-sided law, not looking at the business, not looking at the consumer. This has been a recent approach. So this, I am fearing how things will go the way forward. Can I have the next slide, please? Way forward, what is required here is setting up of the GST tribunal. Till now, we don't have a GST tribunal. It's been 6 years of formation. All the disputes have been accumulated. It has not been decided. So hopefully something has been happening there. What's on the card is also rationalization into 3 rates. Don't think that it is a good news. It is a bad news because they are not trying to eliminate 18%, they are trying to eliminate 12%. That means what is there in 12, they will put it into 18. So that is the challenge. It is not, if 18 they are eliminating and putting it to 12, it was a good news. So that is the major reason the rate rationalization is not taken up before the election. After the election, they want to take it up because it's going to have a negative impact, not a positive impact. But this is something which has been there. From a policy level, inclusion of fuel is high time that the fuel has to be included in GST. That is not only going to reduce the rate of the taxation on the fuel, but also helps in taking that as an input tax credit, because fuel is a major consumption in various industries. It could be for transportation, it could be for DG sets. The fuel is a major consumption which has been there. If the GST has been paid instead of the central excise, their cost is going to reduce. Similarly is the electricity, which is much awaited. Electricity for commercial consumption should come under GST. So there is going to be a lot of benefits is going to happen because of that. And also getting the stamp duty merged into GST. So these are all the things which has been required as a way forward for us to go from a GST point. Next slide, please. So this finishes my my talk. So I've slightly overshooted my time, but I thought I'll cover whatever has been required. So thank you all for the patience listening. I am here to take your questions now.
There is a question here, sir. When the government is charging between 30 to 45% on income tax, again an 18 to 20% on GST, why wouldn't the Indian population want to evade tax?
Yeah, very, very rightly asked the question. It's been proved fact that the higher the rate, higher the tax. Simple case of gold smuggling. When the rates of duties of gold were reduced, we were hardly seeing any smuggling case. So when it was increased, then the smuggling got tremendously increased. So it is very important. This has also been told in Kautilya's Arthashastra, that they tell that the tax has to be collected as a honeybee collects the honey from the flower without disturbing it, without making any harm. So then people don't resist at all. So the taxes has to be ideally planned at a rate which it will not actually pinch them, and it has to be collected. So to do that, there is a political challenge. There is a Kelkar committee report which was given, where they told you tax the GST airpin to aeroplane at 8%. That's all. No exemption, nothing. And all business purchases, you will give a set off. So end consumer, whatever he buys, he knows 8%. Ambiguities will be removed, everything. Now, if this is there, even an agriculture produce has to be at 8%. Even your vegetables has to be at 8%. Now it is a political move that if any government will take it, that they will tax the vegetables also, rice also, basic facilities also at a rate of tax of 8%. And also the person who is buying an aeroplane or a flight travel is also at 8%. So this is something politically people are not trying to bell the cat. So this is forcing to give an exemption few sector and load whatever has been losing to another sector, and thereby increasing the rate of tax is what has been happening. In fact, it's high time that the rates has to be reduced to 12% because the collections are good. It is going to further go if it is going to be reduced at 12%. But it's, unfortunate we pay more than 50-55% of our earnings in taxes.
How much percentage of evasion is happening because of this?
Not very sure, very difficult to estimate. I think evasion could be, the parallel economies could be somewhere near to 30 to 40% of what the actual economy is.
30%?
Yeah. That means if what has been accounted as 1.5 crores of collection, so there is another 30% at least, in my view, if not 30, maybe 50. Another 75,000 crores has been evaded every month.
Oh, every month?
Every month.
Okay. What is the impact on the migration of high net worth individuals because of this from the country?
If you look at the global taxation also, that has been claimed by government many times, that as far as the corporate tax is concerned or the individual income tax is concerned, we are at par with many of the countries, at par. So maybe there are few countries which is less than that, but we are at par. But when it comes to indirect tax, maybe we are a bit costly in a few commodities and a few commodity, otherwise in the some other commodities. So I have not generally seen the people leaving the country because of the taxation in my experience. But yes, I have seen people relocating their business place outside India because of some illogical laws which has been there in India, which will, if the same thing, if you sit in Singapore and do, you will not pay tax. But if you're sitting in India, you have to pay tax. That sort of an illogical way the drafting is there. So I've seen few people shifting their operations abroad, but still staying here and doing it. But not really that a lot of people are running away from the country because of taxes. I don't see that yet.
Can Section 73(1) of the GST Act 2017 be invoked to disallow Tran 1 distributed at the receiving end on the ground that the receiving location did not produce a certificate from the competent authority that SENVAT accumulated was eligible credit?
See, this is a quietly a technical subject. 73(1) notices has been invoked. 73 says that whenever there is a short payment of tax or a non-payment of tax, the GST, the notice can be given. Now, what is the transaction which he is talking about? He is talking about that I had some credits in my central excise. Now I brought it into my GST and I have offsetted it. So there is an error while doing it. So this person is asking that this is something to do with central excise. Na? How can a notice be given under GST? Can it be given is his question. So technically this can be challenged also from a judicial point of view. But if you go by the books, they are free to give the notice under Section 73 for the transfer.
What impacts of GST is on the poor and the lower social economic groups of the population? From Mr. Schmel.
Can you just repeat it?
What impacts of the GST? What is the impact of GST on the poor and the lower socio-economic groups of the population?
Okay, so the impact, as I told, that I'm looking at more from a consumer point of view. I'm a consumer and I'm a poor. What is the impact of GST on me? So if you look at the basic essentials which has been there, which is required, like your fruits, vegetables, your rices, so which is required for you to survive, 80% has been kept outside the tax, right? Of course, yes, the LPG is there. So for cooking, you need to LPG. LPG is suffered GST. So there are few things like oil is suffered GST. So at least 80% of the basic is kept outside. I don't have the major incidents. Even if I have a major incidence on few pulses and all those things, the rate is kept at 5%. That is a minimal rate. So it is not a huge impact which has been there. But as and when I am comfortable in spending, right? So once I have the surplus with me, and with that surplus, I am instead of buying a aloo, I am buying a potato chips. I'm affordable. So potato chips comes with 18%, right? So like that, the things will go up. I am affordable to buy a Coke also along with the potato chips. Coke is at 28%. So as and when your capacity to pay is increased, you have been put at a higher rate of tax.
Okay.
So very basics, as been told, like roti, kapda, makan is at 5%. Textile is at 5%. You buy an apartment, it's at 5%. Of course, if you are buying an apartment which is a lower section, it is only at 1%. Right? And all other restaurants and all those things is at 5%.
Excellent.
So something which they are looking at, making it as lesser.
While rationalization of rates across the states in the country is given as the key benefit of GST. This question is from Ms. Shyama Sundari. The small scale and the decentralized sectors have not benefited much from GST, except that they are now burdened by additional paperwork support from professional auditors.
Yeah, it depends upon the industry to industry. If this particular industry where they've been talking about, they're not able to capture the business across the other states, which earlier they were missing because of differential rates. So they may not be able to see the benefit. But there are certain sectors where the rate of VAT was different from one state to another state. And they had a customer in the other state, but they were not able to buy because if they buy from me, I become 12% costlier. So those people actually got the benefit. But maybe Sham Sundar is coming from an industry where the rate was neutral. It was 12% earlier itself. So maybe the benefit is not been able to look at. And professional auditors, there was a requirement, chartered accountant or a cost accountant to certify the annual returns. This also has been removed from past 3 years. It has not been required. So actually you are not dependent on a professional auditor. All that is required is a self-learning. There are n number of material available, and also it is a time that whenever the professional you are taking, you take a service of getting yourself and your team trained rather than outsourcing that work. This is very much important for the small and medium scale industries, because they cannot able to afford the professional fees. So in our office, we have a concept that we don't want to become a cost to any of our client. We should not be pursued as a cost at all. So what we do is that somebody says that, why don't you file my returns? I will say, boss, I will not file your returns. I'll handle you for 6 months. I will train your accountant. I will put a proper system in place. I will configuration your accounting package, which makes your compliance easy. I will handle for 6 months, put a system in place, have a training module in place. Anybody who is coming or going will go through this SOP. He should be able to file his returns by himself. So this is something which you need to ask your professional auditors or a professional consultant, saying that don't take an outsource. You enable me that I'll make my own self-compliance. That is going to substantially reduce the cost, and also take it from me. When you are doing it yourself, the errors are less. When you are giving it to an outsourcing, that auditor or a tax consultant, whoever is doing, he has to file maybe 100 returns on that deadline dates. So how much you will be able to see? But for you, it is only your return on the deadline day. You are having time to see and verify. So consider this in mind when you are giving an outsourcing, especially the small and medium sized business.